right, so what should be our central focus right now as far as Haiti is concerned? Sondu and Lamu, as we mentioned earlier, their reactions regarding the mission to Haiti. We want to just slice and dice this particular issue with our analysts as well, even as we're winding up the week. And this is also what Stano has done today. Yesterday we were celebrating the World Teachers Day. It was a happy Teachers Day. I trained you, right? And this is how the reality of life is. Sometimes when we meet our teachers there, we got our, a rotund belly protruding there, but still they remain the same, so lean. And this is all about other sectors, how they're doing, salaries and allowances getting bigger. But the teachers, of course, you can see the pale there in the hands of teachers, they get meager. Of course, rewards as far as just acknowledging and appreciating our teachers is concerned, right? Dr. Isaac Kalogrin, did you remember your teacher? Did you even wish whatever the teacher is, maybe just a moment of remembrance?
A very close relative of mine, I celebrated big time, but even more of my teachers, at least I called one of them. My best teacher unfortunately passed on, Mr. Ngungua, but yes, life is like this. I am also celebrating my teachers because I'm still a student at International Leadership University studying leadership. So I celebrate my teachers. It's a great thing.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. So
but before we left, now that we
let's just appreciate our teachers. That will come back to you because we're going to Haiti as well. I hope you're not taking back.
You locked me out.
You got wishes yesterday.
No, I didn't get much because I was expecting my good friends like Mr. Green here to do it, but they didn't do. But one of the greatest teachers I celebrate, though he's now gone, he's late. If Haman here will remember him, he was called Dr. Rohio.
Rohio.
Dr. Rohio. Dr. Rohio used to teach me political fury.
That's how he used to talk.
Yeah, this is talk, and he was a bearded guy like this. And he used to teach by asking questions. What did Thomas Hobbes say? Then he sits there, you babble around. Then he asks another question. Those were serious teachers until Herman Manyora came around. Yeah.
But you remember him?
I remember him.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Kirwa, you remember your teacher?
I remember many of them, and even those who are still teaching me now, but not Martin.
I'm the only one who
Martin has been egging you to on your dissertation, yeah?
Yeah, I'm encouraging him, and you might remember me. In fact, I think he'll dedicate some space.
Yeah.
This is on me.
To acknowledgement. Yeah?
But there are many teachers to celebrate, right from primary all the way up to where we are today. Because I remember those primary school teachers at Kablamai in Kitale spend a lot of time over the weekends to make sure that we do some remedial work without pay, without allowances. Unlike today, when children go for remedial classes, they have to pay a certain amount of money. Those teachers made us what we are. Many of them. I don't want to mention one and forget the others. Thank God most of them are still alive. Of course, much older than me. But some of them, there were 5 years difference between me and them because I went to school late. At the age of 14, I was in standard 2. Yeah, but I'm still here.
The problem is that you seem to be persisting. You want to finish PhD at 70. So please.
Okay.
Yeah, it's never too late. It's never too late. An encouragement. Haman Manyora, mwalimu wa walimu sasa.
You cannot. Of course, they are good teachers. Everybody who has been to school can remember 1 or 2 good teachers. I would certainly remember somebody who taught me in class 1, Edward Anzigare, is still there, and he was not able to go for training because the Quakers around where I come from thought he was dating girls, and they made it impossible for him to get training. In those days, those who if they say huyu anatafuta wasichana, mambo yako imekwisha. So Edward, I still see him, I celebrate him. But you cannot talk of celebrating teachers. Teachers cannot be celebrated in this world. Teachers will be celebrated in heaven. because teachers work for God. Not for anything, not for a salary, because nobody, look, even here in Kenya, we have a country that pays an MCA more than a professor. How can you be valuing teachers? You don't value teachers. You pay teachers 20,000 shillings. You give them your children to teach. Teachers go to school when the rest of us are still enjoying our breakfast at home. They stay late in school with our children. They carry books home for marking, and when the rest of us are in our clubs celebrating and drinking, and then we pay these guys like worse than we pay our house girls. So anybody talking of celebrating teachers, that's just an insult. Mm-hmm. But let's just be hopeful. I'm a teacher, and I take solace in the fact that I work for God, and if there's any reward for teaching, I'll get it in heaven, not here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, that's a very different perspective. Is that about?
It's about the role those people have played. So you should not equate this to money.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from.
I just want to congratulate.
Can we hear from
Professor Herman Manyora for that statement? That's all.
That's all.
I think that's very profound. Okay. God bless you, sir.
Professor.
Yeah, mine is to remember in particular, because I can tell you, and those seated here, I came from one of the most humblest backgrounds in this country, because my father was a catechist. He earned 1,500. We were 11 kids. How I became a professor is only, even what I am now is because of education. And that's why I relate very clearly with Kibaki, because of the education he brought. In fact, you can tell how many people went to school when you say free primary education.
You would say God.
Sorry?
So you are here because of God.
Well, I mean, you can say whatever you want, but God is for everybody. Why are some people not here? Because also we have to understand that some people had to do some work to help people. God, of course, is acknowledged, but I'm here, we are not in charge, so we can discuss that at church. Before my pastor, I'll say I'm here because of God. When we are here, we say there's somebody who did something in leadership. So there's a teacher, I can actually remember, even his name is called Okite. This teacher was teaching maths. Imagine when it is cold, when it is raining, when you believe no teacher will come, they will appear. And I used to be doing very well in all subjects except maths. That's why I changed my school. And I used to score something like 45% in maths. And we had a target that for me to go to high school, which is St. Mary's Yala, which was my target, I have to score at least 80% in maths. He worked with me from 45 to 92%. And for me, that was amazing and profound. And when I went there, I also remember other teachers there who worked with me. One of them is called Wabomba. This was a deputy head teacher. St. Mary's Yala, they used to say that everybody has 24 hours. How you spend your 24 hours makes a difference. So we used not to walk, we used to run. So there was no walking in the compound. Our motto was shine in everything, everywhere. So I think maybe you can say that's maybe those mottos and the provisions we had. And I think those ones were very instrumental things. And I would say still, relating to the subject we had earlier, that the issue of discussing about cost of living, it is a misplaced discussion in the whole country. You can disagree, if you like. But we should not be discussing about how costly, how cheap something should be. We should be discussing how affordable something should be. In fact, the headline should be talking about affordability of life that can be affordable. Because if you want farmers to sell their maize at a lower price, then it means that anybody who makes money in that value chain has to make very little money. Remember, somebody has to cultivate. The guy who has to cultivate using a tractor. The guy who has to package it. So we have to look for how can we be able to inject money in the economy to make things work. The same thing to teachers. Teachers are too many that are taken for granted, and that's why I agree with Professor here. They'll only be celebrated where? In heaven. But their economy is where teachers are seriously. That's a knowledge economy.
Thank you.
When Kenya becomes a knowledge economy, they'll value teachers. But now still brokers, traders, all those are the ones who make more money than teachers.
Thank you.
And even doctors, if you like.
Okay, let's buckle down to the issue of Haiti just briefly. It has been in the headlines this week. So far, we've had the reactions from civil society and also Azimio Lamoja that should not be our priority. I will begin with you, Dr. Kalua. I wonder what is your assessment on this? Should we... Well, it's been given a thumbs of approval for, and it seems now there's no stopping. We are going full steam ahead of it. But what are some of the blowbacks, some of ramifications that we should be prepared for?
I don't want to go back home with my thought on an earlier discussion, so I will comment on that and respond to your question about. And I want to justify why Mheshimiwa Kirwa may be right in his statement about food, and that in Kenya we may be buying and importing maize very soon, in just a minute, and to say that the reason why that statement may be correct, the reason why we may have challenges in education, the reason why we may have challenge in food security, on matters security in the country, is because as a nation, we have not focused on a very important underlying subject, population. Currently, we are at 53.1. When I was born, we were about 10 million people, and that is in about 1969. Today, I am like Zinjanthropus to the young people. I'm very old, so you can't even equate my colleagues in this number. And we need to start focusing on the population challenges that we have, that come with all this, the overpopulation in cities and many other issues that come with this, including representation and who represents. The reason why we are losing most of the legislators, 75% not being voted in, is because they will never get to deal with the real issues of the people, because we are not focusing on the right things, including budget, and the challenges that we are having even of trying to reduce the costs is just sentimental. It's something very small. The bigger issue is about population, and I want to challenge the government and everyone, even at our own individual points of view. We need to put into play the issue of population in our country. The moment we start thinking about that, even matters of popular initiatives, Katiba, we will start looking at things in the right way, as opposed just to looking at them from a very superficial point of view. But back to...
On population, if you want, I don't believe in what Dr. Green is saying. Population is never a problem. Indeed, China has a big population, so does India.
I'm talking about planning, not population being a problem.
No, I'm saying that actually that's the opportunity we have. The population, as it grows, that's the opportunity we have, but for another day.
Yes.
But
yes.
it's not also a matter of population that you see is an opportunity, it's the quality of the population.
It's about planning, it's about our engagement, it's about our focus. We are dealing with short-term issues, not focusing on medium-term and long-term. And the moment we start focusing on just the short-term, then we are just transferring the problem. And that problem is not being transferred today, it has been transferred for many years. The problem we have today is not a Ruto problem. It is not either a Kenyatta problem. It is a problem that we have kept transferring within our planning, budgets not being aligned to the challenges that are in place today, and imagining that things will sort themselves out when we get to power. And it is the right time now to align things for our country, appreciating the numbers we have. We may look at the harvest and it looks very big, but we forget to imagine that we are now 53.1. In 10 years' time, we'll be about 60 million people plus. Those are serious issues that as a nation, we must be able to be very, very focused with a vision that is very clear, appreciating that time comes with challenges and everything else that we must deal with. This is the underlying problem that we have. Back to Haiti. Debal, we have had a lot of discussions, a lot of views that the president is extremely wrong, that this is a misplaced information, direction and everything, yes. I give it to those who have this kind of views. As you know, Debal, I also believe that there is always the other side of things and the other way to look at things. Our country, our globe is full of global insecurity. It will take a nation, it will take an individual, it will take a set of people to deal with the global insecurity. Our nation has got so many challenges that are out there, hitting people, including cost of living. It will take a lot of things and a lot of effort to get the right people to start thinking about global relations. Our country is facing challenges of unemployment. We need allies that can be able to imagine, because you came to me at a time of need, I am able to come to you to deal with the challenge, because the challenges that we are having as a nation and Africa are very simple problems that other countries have faced. And they can never open up, and they will never open up until you are allies. Global and international relationships are very, very important, Debal. And I think as we condemn, a lot of us are condemning, I also want to request that very kindly, what are the opportunities? Can you imagine the training that can come, exposure of our police officers? Getting them there doesn't mean that they are going to come back in coffins. These are our children. Nobody would wish that people are going there to die. But it is also creating a new opportunity for employing, for exposure, for people getting to know how things are done outside there. And it could be a set of training that is going to be out there. The Haiti people themselves don't want the insecurity that they have, do not enjoy in the disorder that they are going through or they have been faced with. And it will take a person, it will take a nation, it will take a community to be able to change. What affects the community in Haiti is the same thing that will affect us in matters global insecurity. And insecurity also goes into issues of climate change that even the Pope himself has addressed and asked us to readdress for future. So we need to have another way of looking at things in a very positive way, because we are a country that is always condemning and feeling that things have been done in the wrong way. What if we also look at the other side of it? Could there be opportunities? Like my brother is talking about the advantage of the population in our country. We need to stop and think and refocus and try to see what we can be able to learn. How come that we are always doing something wrong?
Right, right. Was there enough consultation regarding this, even discussion in Parliament? They're saying the executive has the upper hand when it comes, is a commander-in-chief anyway.
You see, Jubal, what Dr. Green is doing, he is condemning us for raising, or is condemning what we have not known yet. We have an opportunity here to discuss what is the advantage or disadvantage of taking police to Haiti. So before we say that we are against it, the question then is,
I'm not talking about us here.
No, I'm saying as Kenyans. I'm saying as Kenyans.
Yes.
The point is that you give what you have. And the question then is, do we have extra? Do we have police that we can actually give away, 1,000 of them? Can we lead a peace? And you see, the issue is that what is our ratio of police to population? And if we cannot even police this state the way we are, sufficiently, how would we get 1,000 policemen to just take out there? Okay, let's assume we do have extra. Let's assume we do have ability to participate. The next question is, what are our capabilities? What are our competencies that we are exporting? Are these men and women trained in such a way that they can actually take such combat or take such international assignment in a fairly fragile situation such as Haiti is? But the most critical question is, who are we going to preserve? Whose peace or what state is available in Haiti that we are participating in? So when you look at it from public international law, the question is, the government has been ousted. There is no government you can talk about. The place has been taken up by gangs. So there is no government, or the state is in such a way that there is an order in Haiti. And police service as we know it is a service that submits to an authority, so that it should be there being directed by some authority. What is that authority? Are we going to legitimize the takeover by this gang and their acting head? What are we doing? So the morality of it, the political correctness of it, and perhaps our role at an international level come into question. Finally, as Kenyans, with our Article 10 of our Constitution, of public participation, and even our institutional participation, how was this decision made? Who participated in this decision, and of what value is it? Fast forward, we have been in Somalia for so long. What interests and how have we done? Now we are saying we want to come out of it. What have we learned? We participated in other missions, other peacekeeping missions, but those had a framework. Those had some semblance of an arrangement with international players and so on. But the Haiti one, it is self-aggrandizement. It's a mission for self-glorification. We are not really going there as Kenyans to make a contribution, but it's just because now we are playing to some tune at the UN level and the US level, so we must be seen to be leading. When I see the Americans praising us for that action, I doubt that we are in the right direction.
Are we in the right direction, Honorable Kiro?
Well, first of all, it is interesting to understand the background of Haiti. It's one of the countries that America has colonized at some stage in history. And most of the changes that have taken place there, whether it's that of Duvalier or other leaders who have been in Haiti, it has been orchestrated from White House. And the main reason why Americans are interested in Haiti is not because of the people of Haiti. It is because of the resources they are mining even today from Haiti. So it is a dangerous mission given the fact that there is no semblance of order. And the disorder that is there has been perpetrated by America trying to install puppets for purposes of ensuring that they continue mining the resources in Haiti. It is therefore akin to what Samora Machel said, that the moment you hear somebody from Western world praising me, remember that's the day I will have betrayed you, people of Mozambique. So when you hear the president of Kenya being praised by America, it is he has betrayed the very essence of our people going there. I don't want to project the kind of catastrophe that may befall our young Kenyans when they go to Haiti. But I wish there was a clear framework. You know, when you go to war, like the way our forces are in Somalia, you must prepare for an exit plan, because at times you may get into a war situation that it is impossible to get out of. Therefore, as you enter, you must think of how to exit the place. Just like a thief. If a thief comes to your place, the first thing they do is to see, should we find trouble inside here? How are we going to exit the place? So that is something that we need to be thinking, because that is a country that has been taken over by disorder. If there was a case study of how not to govern, you need to go to Haiti and learn from the kind of disorder that is in the street. Somalia is different, because Somalia, what has happened is that warlords have carved themselves certain conclaves for purposes of taxation. And therefore what is persisting is some kind of order acceptable to the warlords, acceptable to various clans and formations that have taken place in Somalia. I remember when I worked for Somalia for 4 years, it was a very interesting scenario. When you are there, in the morning, whoever is collecting the money at the port is the mayor. In the afternoon, the team from the Ministry of Finance takes over. And in various roadblocks, there are different warlords dealing with those who are trying to use that particular route, such that they understand that the presence of government is a problem to them, because the government will bring order and those resources will be taken away from there. So Haiti, for me, regardless of the legality, because I don't think those forces will go before Parliament does approve. But the issue is the president has gone ahead. He has already been accepted by the Security Council through the resolution. But I feel it is something we need to rethink. 14 billion shillings is not worth 1,000 lives of Kenyans.
Haman Manyora.
You see, I want to agree with Dr. Green Kalua that insecurity is a global problem. And insecurity ranges from, terrorist attacks, fundamentalism, lawlessness. When there's lawlessness in one country, it may be a breeding ground for people who then can cause trouble across the world. And therefore, each one of us should make a contribution to making the world a safer place. To that extent, Dr. Green is right. As to whether or not Kenya should deploy its forces, we need to be a little, I think, logical in our assessment. First, it is not a new thing. And in line of what Dr. Green is saying, that will be our contribution. Kenya has done it before, it can do it. So the only question you are asking yourself, is it sitting within the framework of the law and the Constitution? Is this sitting pretty with our foreign policy? Again, the tragedy of this country that we don't have a foreign policy. If we had a foreign policy, it would be very easy to have a conversation around whether or not to take people to Haiti. It is very simple within the foreign policy. But now, in the absence of that, let's just talk about our Constitution and our laws. So
are you saying we don't have a foreign policy as it is?
We don't have a foreign policy. We don't have one.
There's a document.
There's nothing. We don't have a foreign policy.
If
we had one, the shenanigans we are discussing here wouldn't be there. So you wouldn't have a president sitting with another president and coming out with pet talk and then turning that into a national agenda. It can't work like that. So once we have taken care of the law and the constitutional demands, then they can go. Now, as just before they board the plane, because I think they can't walk to Haiti, we will now have to ask ourselves very serious questions. One, look at the terrain. Is it a terrain from which we can operate as Kenyans? Look at even the cultural, the linguistic barriers. You take people there who don't understand a single word of French, and they are going in a French-speaking place. Lawlessness is at another level in that place. People are armed to the teeth. Availability of arms is like mandazi. Gangs are all over the place. Then you now have to agree with Kirwa. Is this a place you want to take Kenyan children? That question must be answered by Kenyans and by Kenyans leadership. Once you have addressed those, even if they're in the affirmative that you are tough enough to go into Haiti because you are tough and you can come back with minimal casualties, that there's still another question lingering at the bar, the question of history. History can be very harsh. Does Kenya want to join the list of countries that have made life tough for Haiti, as Kiro said? Haiti's history is a history of pain. It's a very painful history. From a slave colony, through the rebellion, through the uprising, seizing power, and through economic hardship imposed on them by the French people, much more than they have imposed on the West African countries. Economic hardships because of the resources of Haiti being exploited by the Americans at gunpoint. And people are saying we want to go and be watchmen to provide cover to Americans and exploit those resources. This is the question you must ask yourself as a Kenyan. The question of America, like it has been put very well, I think, by either Martin or Kirwa here, America has imposed leadership on Haiti. I remember Papa Doc and Baby Doc. Mm-hmm. And the Haiti people have suffered because of that imposition of leadership. The question then, as I stop, must be, does Kenya want, with a straight face, to join the list of the countries that have made? The top one is America, followed by France. Does Kenya want to be number 3 on the list of countries that have made life hell on earth for Haiti people? If that's what we want, let's go ahead. Let's go to Haiti. Yeah.
All right. Professor Wola.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, for me, this is a very important discussion in our country, especially before we get it wrong. Even if we have signed which paper, we can still always reverse our decision. They said that the act of an intelligent man is not the one who always have to do what they have wanted to do. It's how often you change your mind also could actually make you a good leader. Even to accept you are wrong, it's also leadership. And so many people have done. I've seen even the Pope apologizing on behalf of other popes that some things were done were not supposed to be done. But to go to the context here, the Haiti situation, actually I remember I was in Washington, D.C. when I was seeing some desk being signed on how to go and donate some things to Haiti. When I was a student in Georgetown, I was there for a few months. And you could hear students in the university asking themselves questions that, are we trying to solve a crisis which the state has created for its own interest? And according to me, I don't think that going to Haiti is a Kenyan dream. Let me tell you what. I used to say earlier that when you have no vision, then you can just start doing what called supermarket shopping. We are just shopping. William Ruto flies to the US, he meets this cousin, they propose to him something, he calls a press statement and shops on it. He goes to Saudi Arabia, then they say now Kenyans should go and work in Saudi Arabia. They are just shopping, they have no vision. There's nothing that you can use as a blueprint to inform the decision of the state. And I'm trying to say that this is the time we need leadership that is informed by what's the vision. According to Haiti's situation, it's working on the American dream. American dream, it fulfills the American dream. Do we have anything like a Kenyan dream? Is there a Kenyan vision? And I'm asking myself, what is the vision that the president has for the children of the people who are going to take that flight to Haiti and for their families? What's the vision for them? If you send me to become a professor in Haiti, the vision is that my children can actually gain. But if you send me to become a police officer or a military person there who might actually have a challenge, then you put me in trouble. And I also have to insist that what is the training and the preparation of the Kenyan police when they are going there? Do you know that Kenyan police is, by their law, they're supposed to maintain law and order, which means a bigger chunk of their training is how to maintain law and order. You are going to a place where there is no law and order, and you have not been trained in an environment where you can help to bring law and order. Their work is not to bring law and order. Their work is to maintain law and order. And they can't make that in this lawlessness situation. As far as I'm concerned, I've seen so many sporadic decisions coming from Kenya Kwanza which are not thought through. There are some committees we call Presidential Working Party. This was a decision that needed such like a framework where some people sit down, independent minds, without emotional reaction, to really ask themselves, what are the long-term implications? What's the economic implication, the social implication? Can you remember that one thing when slaves went to the US, it changed people's lives forever? That if somebody went to the US as a slave, now we have the black Americans there. And we have people of different descents in the US. So my main question is, by passing this thing through the Treaty Council, what is it that the president cannot pass? He can pass nearly anything, isn't it? Now, do you believe in the judgment of the president? I have questioned so many judgments that he has made. And what we are trying to say is that when the president is trying to be popular with the West, and for me, my problem is not the West. The problem is that the West has interest. Obama came to this country, and Obama made a speech in Nairobi and said, every country has a national interest, and he urged us, the best way is to align your national interest to the other nation's national interest, then they can help you in your interest. So, are we helping America achieve the American interest, American dream, at the expense of the Kenyan dream and the Kenyan interest? And if there is only that these people are receiving money, the 14 billion that is coming to our country, like my senior here, Kira, has said, have we looked at the damage that it will cost to us? Is there another way to get these 14 billion shillings without having to take our people to Haiti. You know, for us in strategy, you talk about scenario planning. And I was actually presenting this thing actually in court the other day, and I was asking myself, there must be purpose and effect. If you want to achieve a certain purpose with a good effect, that's one scenario. You can also be able to achieve the same purpose with bad effect. Logic shows that you better choose to achieve your purpose with minimum negative effect. According to me, even if you put that invest, for example, in agriculture, you can actually receive these 14 billion shillings. You can involve young people in technology, open innovation, where you involve them in economy. Those young people can involve the economy. And the other thing is that they say that when you board a plane, and there's always an announcement which is stated that when the cabin pressure falls down in the plane, before you help anybody, put on your mask first. And they even add by saying, even if you want to help an infant, because if you can't breathe, and you are trying to help someone to breathe, you might fail to help that person breathe, and also you fail to help yourself to breathe, then you both die. So Kenya cannot breathe. Now the Sondu situation is challenging them. That's why the cartoon is talking about. If the Sondu situation is challenging them, we have many other issues, Baragoi, we have not sorted. We have so many historical insecurity issues. Can we put on our mask first so that you can breathe before we help Haiti? Because in the end, Haiti will fail and Kenya will fail, so we'll have two failed nations. We'd rather have Kenya succeed and Haiti fail.
Right. So even as we're winding up on Haiti, just because you say the question is not really about the 14 billion shillings, Dr. Isaac Kalua, it is what the president said. We have a moral duty, and in the spirit of multilateralism, this is what we should do. But at what cost? It is about our national interest. What is of material utility this particular mission that is going to actually favor Kenya with? Are we playing into the hands of some proxy wars, so to speak, naively? And you can see also today's editorial cartoon regarding our Kenya foreign policy. Because just look at in full so far. We've had also the reshuffle. We shall be discussing that just momentarily. But you can see how the CS in the foreign ministry has been flying with a broomstick. It has been also tweet diplomacy, looking far. So far, it's been a circus as far as the foreign policy is concerned. But you can chime in on that. Do we have a moral duty as Kenya? Is it a moral obligation in the spirit of multilateralism?
I believe so, very firmly. It does not mean that we abdicate our local responsibility, what we need to do locally. It doesn't mean that at all. But moral obligation is definitely there. And it's a matter of balancing so many issues. As I say, there are opportunities in every crisis. The secret lies in identifying that opportunity. Some of the lying opportunities is that creating friendship, even in a normal situation, Debal. When you lose a friend, when you lose a family member, it is enough just to say sorry. It is enough to say we are praying for you. It is enough to give a contribution and say that we supported you. But it is deeply appreciated when someone takes a flight, someone drives for 9 hours to come and help me bury my father. It gets deep. And that is the moral obligation that I'm talking about, that we do have as a nation. And I want to believe that also, irrespective of the imagination that some of these decisions are made without very great thoughtfulness, I believe that there is a level of information that may have been engaged. It is not right that it came out the way it did. In every situation in life, there is the power of the question, why? the reason why you are doing this kind of a thing.
Thank you.
And the communication in this case broke where the minister may have spoken something ahead of the president ahead of the UN Security Council, and therefore Parliament is coming in at a later time, and therefore so many questions. The delivery is an issue, but
right.
Moral obligation we do have.
What is the urgency, briefly, as we're winding up on that particular topic? What is the urgency? Should it have waited to consult more broadly, as you said? Is it also a public participation item, or this is a preserve and a prerogative of the incumbent?
You see, in
Briefly.
contract law, we talk about an offer. Somebody has to give you an offer, and then there's acceptance of the offer. But what seals it is consideration. So the urgency here is consideration. Consideration usually is what's the money involved in it. So I have heard it's 14 billion.
Yeah.
But it's not just about 14 billion. It's how that 14 billion will be syndicated and how it will be availed and what it will be used for. We don't know whether some of it will go back to even building a simple and a single police unit. You know, Bival, one of the things that we cannot be proud of as Kenyans is how we have treated policing in this country. Do you know that even within Nairobi, if you go to the OCPD's office in Kabete here, the building that the OCPD sits in is a colonial hut, something that was built during those colonial times. Similarly, you go to the so-called Muraiga police station across here. The shame of it is that there is nothing we've added on that police station ever since independence. Now, surely, we have a police force that is largely unmotivated, largely, even though we've said it's a service, largely still operates as an appendage somewhere of our security system. So the urgency here is absent in terms of what then is connected to the future, the returns on this assignment. However, to demonstrate that we are very ready to be used by the Americans, it's urgent that we take our police to Haiti.
That's all we do. It's sarcastic.
You know, Martin, I think should be a diplomat. It starts by making the story so nice, but he finishes by destroying the same story. Now, what worries me is the number correct? 1,000. Is the number correct? Have they considered the logistics? You see, what I said earlier is something that is worth repeating. When you go to war, you must have an exit plan. Or when you enter a situation of war, you must have an exit plan. Should the situation be so bad in Haiti, how are our boys and girls going to return to Kenya? What is their exit plan? Who is covering them? Because what is happening there is that Americans are very busy mining resources from Haiti. Some of the rare minerals worth billions of shillings. And there is a challenge that we are going there to a situation that we do not even understand, like what Rahman said earlier on. The language in Haiti is the funny language of the locals and French. English, yes, even Americans themselves were there some time back, but they failed miserably. So it worries me. Have we really considered, or do we want just to show that we are also present in this environment? Finally, I think I just wanted to respectfully tell Herman Manyora, the last Uhuru regime was able to funnel out a document named Foreign Policy. Whether it is working or not, there is a document.
But he knows there's a document. He's just seeing what is
policies.
What the efficacy of a document in light of such challenges.
Is actually a foreign policy document.
There is, I agree.
Yes,
but what I'm saying, if you understand how man doesn't say there isn't.
He was also being like Martin, sarcastic.
Yes.
Okay.
He's being sarcastic. Briefly, as we wind up on this.
I think the issue of Haiti is settled. It is settled that the government is determined. They will send soldiers to Haiti.
So is there any random reason why they should be calling Kindiki and IG to discuss?
No,
about,
nothing. That will not
Assembly?
change anything. And Kiru, for information, just to help you understand, it's not 1,000, it is more than 1,000. That means government can send as many as they will find necessary. Parliament, if it is asked to give approval, we know, like Prof here says, they will give approval. Nobody will stop it.
Do we have sufficient?
We can only pray that, our leaders are greedy. They want to make some little money out of this. Our leaders want glory, much as Martin says, glory is not in the picture. They want glory. They want to be praised by America and everybody else.
Thank you.
We pray to God that do not allow the folly and greedy of our leaders to lead to harm to our children. So let the greed and the glory and everything else take our children to Haiti, but we pray to the Almighty God, protect our children. They are innocent. They are not part of these greedy cabals. They are not going to get the praise. They will not eat part of the money. We have said that money will not even make life better for police officers in this country. Just protect them, Almighty God. That's all we can say.
One line on this, because I think
I'll go very fast. Mine, first of all, we have to understand what is moral obligation. But this just comes from what you do. I do good, avoid evil. So if Americans, the Haiti thing is evil and you join the evil initiative, is evil. So there's no moral obligation if you are supposed to do something evil, because it's very clear. If you say the Americans are mining minerals there and you are going to support that evil thing because you are exploiting a country, so it is actually doing evil. So we do not have a moral obligation. But if what America is doing in Haiti or the Haiti thing is something which is good, then you have a moral duty to support, because you don't have moral duty to support something which is evil. And then I will tell you, and this is very clear, that as you said it, the two things that we lack in this country that should be discussed even by lawyers like Martin is the independence of the institutions of Kenya and corruption. So independence here is, if the parliament was independent, they could stop the president. Is there any institution in Kenya that can stop the president? No. So the state house is good to be, the country is good to be run from state house, Professor, because the executive has taken control of other institutions, and now they have no say of anything to say. But the biggest beneficiary could be, if at all this money has benefits to the people, is their wives. If you are a wife of a policeman going to Haiti, and you can receive 100 million shillings if at all they don't come back, isn't it? You're very happy if they go back. So at least they can benefit. But to Kenyans, this is a big loss, and we will never explain to our children's children for what we are doing. Because for me, the policemen, if you ask me, do not need these houses you're talking about. But I've talked to them. I've talked to very senior security guys in the police. They tell me, Fred, if we can just get some good, decent salary, and two, insurance, because we're exposed at any time there's insecurity, we'll be very happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The very interesting editorial cartoon that we do have as well. We want to buckle down to the issue of the cabinet reshuffle. What does it portend? And Victor, this is on actually in the Star, is taking it literally as a cabinet. And you can see, yeah, they're popping out faces there, being laid on top there, but they're now the principal cabinet secretary as well, amongst others as well. But this is drawing a lot of reaction, where the winners and losers of President William Ruto's cabinet reshuffle have continued to react. And we want to just hear on this particular reaction as well. If you can roll up with the auto cue, we continue with the story. To their redeployment. The former threat CS, Moses Kuria, who was moved to the Public Service and Performance Management docket, has alleged that powerful enemies and shadowy individuals were behind his transfer. In the shake-up, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has been seen as the biggest winner after the Foreign Affairs portfolio was added to his office. The changes that came less than a year since the CS took oath of office, or the CSs, were looming large for months after the head of state lamented the incompetence of some of his ministers. KTN's political affairs reporter Emmanuel has more.
The moment I know more than you in your ministry, then you must begin to understand that something is very wrong.
The statement by President William Ruto 2 months ago, a sign that all was not well within his cabinet and was only a matter of time before he could crack the whip. And Wednesday night statement from State House, signed by the head of Public Service Felix Koskei, confirmed the speculations. In the changes, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi appeared to reap big as he got additional roles, now also steering the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs docket. Dr. Alfred Mutua was moved to the Tourism and Wildlife Affairs portfolio, while Water CS Alice Wahome swapped places with Land CS Zachariah Njeru. Moses Kuria was settled at the Public Service and Performance Management role, as Penina Malonza was diverted to the ESC and ASAL docket. The winners in the changes, led by the Prime CS Mudavadi and the new Trade CS Rebecca Miano, have both welcomed their new deployments, promising to deliver on their new assignments. Kuria, who posted an image of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on his X platform immediately after the reshuffle, has claimed his enemies have been working overtime to see him fall.
Wale wanasherekea ati mimi nilitolewa kwa hii wizara. Within 6 months, wataanza kwenda kwa rais kumwambia, "Ai, amezidi sana, mtoe hapa tena." They will be asking for another reshuffle in 6 months time. Wallahi, I promise you.
If you serve the people of Kenya, those are your bosses, they are your employers. Dignify them by the way you address them. Even when there are challenges, remain calm and steady.
Kuria still welcomed his new role, but continued on his Ministry of Trade plans in Garissa County, where he launched an industrial park. He is set to launch another one in Vihiga Friday, despite the statement from State House stating that the changes were effective immediately.
My friend, mtosheke na mjue ya kwamba kama ulikuwa unasumbuliwa na mimi nilikuwa na wizara kamoja, sebuze saa hii mimi na coordinate wizara zote 22.
The controversial CS's tongue may have forced his redeployment, having missed an official trip to the US with the president. These after reports indicated that US Trade Representative Catherine Tai lamented over his social media posts. The changes have already elicited mixed reactions across the political divide.
Kama mtu hafai ama hajui kazi yake ya utenda kazi ya uwaziri, basi hata ukimpeleka katika ofisi nyingine ataharibu. Sasa ni kuchukua ubovu kutoka hapa kupeleka ubovu huu katika wizara fulani. Utoe ubovu wa wizara hii ulete katika wizara hii. Hujafanya kitu.
Because sometimes it's important when after 1 year, once you evaluate the performance of your ministers, you do reassign people based on their qualifications and also based on their delivery model.
We need to see a country that is moving. And so we appreciate that the president has done this, though a bit late, but we say thank you, because we are going to see a cabinet that is now fully composed and a cabinet that is going re-energized and that is going to deliver to Kenyans.
I, Alice Mudhoni Wahome.
The turbulent waters at the Ministry of Water and Sanitation may also have forced the president's hand, where Wahome and her PS Kiprono Rono engaged in a vicious boardroom war regarding the conduct of Athi Water Works CEO Michael Thuita, who eventually resigned from his position. Kiprono was also not spared, as he has been moved to the State Department for Crops Development. Emmanuel To, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, also we got greater details of that. Why Ruto's reshuffle is a warning shot to CSs. Pundits say a move triggered by president's waning trust in the performance of the CSs is what has triggered this as well. We want to take a short break right now. I want to circle back with the pundits. We buckle down to this and moving forward, just also interrogating some of these sentiments that are coming from some of the CSs as well. Some of them are claiming dark forces are behind this. We can remember the late Jacob Midio with the Madimoni. So Madimoni also are back. We'll take a short break.